Hello, my name is Joseph McLaughlin, and today we're going to talk about this infamous on-off switch that many of us who are on the spectrum or know people on the spectrum have experienced. A little about me: I was 40 when I learned that I was autistic, and I was 50 when I was finally diagnosed for work purposes. Prior to this, I always knew that I functioned differently, and I just didn't know why. I just thought I was broken. And I had people tell me, well, you're just trying to be different. And I would say, no, I just don't understand how to function like you. But as for this on off switch, an experience I had when I was 25, I was a long haired, hippie, heavy metalhead at a convenience store, played a bass in a band, and I had a coworker walk up to me and say, Joe, why are you two different people? Not just the happy me and sad me, but one side was loving, kind, gentle, Jesus freak, laid back, loved everybody, and the other side was bitter, foul mouthed, intolerant, and angry at everyone. And so that led me onto a journey to ask a lot of questions. And it helped me learn about what I would call overloads, or where for most of us overloads are initially expressed now as meltdowns. But then again, I didn't know the term meltdown because again, I didn't know I was autistic. But meltdowns are an intense response to an overwhelming situation. And they happen because someone is completely overwhelmed by their current situations. Overloads are not temper tantrums or, in modern vernacular, being triggered. There's a ton online about the difference between the two. In short, temper tantrums and being triggered are conditional events. Someone says a word like no, or some other word that's hurtful or ideologically opposed to what we believe in, and that action or word sends us into a fit of some sort. And it usually disappears once a solution is resolved. Overloads are electrical overloads of the brain. Our brain works on two primary different levels. One is chemical, which includes chemicals from the various parts of our body, things like serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline, and so forth. But the overload experience are based on electrical inputs. And the two primary processors of the electrical inputs are the brain and the spinal cord. We experience a scratch on our arm. It tells the brain we got scratched. And the brain goes, okay, thanks for telling me. The chemical and the electrical inputs that affect our brain are not autonomous. And they both influence each other. Like we get, ouch, I got hurt. That makes me angry. Or that water is warm. It makes me want to relax. So our physical experience, the electrical signals can trigger the chemical. The chemical can also start triggering the electrical. So instead of conditional responses, think of overloads on the line of blown fuse. Conditional response: I am upset until the condition is met. Overload: I am upset. And there's not really a rhyme or reason. Think of it like, as I said, a blown fuse. Here we are with a clear head, and then we have the meltdown or the overload. But instead of light simply going dim, our defense mechanism is kicked in and we turn into sort of a runaway truck. We can start having complications, which I'll go into in a minute, with our speech, our movement, our responses, our vision, anything that requires electronic signals to go back and forth in our brain and communicate. This causes some of the erratic behavior that we experience when someone like me is going into an overload. In short, the term that we're looking for is executive function. The quick and dirty, my definition of executive functioning is the parts of the brain that control various signals to the correct parts of the brain. So in other words, if I see something, it goes into my eye, tells my brain, hey brain, I see something. And then it should go to the part of the brain that processes vision or the optic processor. Executive functioning includes everything from our sensory inputs, like sight and sound, to our concepts of time. We went to the part 2 months ago. Our working memory, organizing data, reactions to external stimuli, which some of your reactions to the external world are part of your spinal cord as well. Like, notice how when you touch something hot on the stove, your hand pulls back before the brain goes, ouch, that hurt. So everything from reading facial expressions and understanding our own emotions, anything where information is passed back and forth in the brain is controlled or guided by our executive functioning. So let's actually see what the difference is between, say, an autistic person and the typical person as they experience things. Here in this illustration, a typical person sees something, it goes into the brain where the eye is signals are received, and then it is sent to where the signal is processed. Here's an autistic person getting the exact same signal. It goes in, and then the signal goes who knows where. Absolutely haphazard. It's not necessarily random. Some of it's very systematic within a given individual. Each individual is unique in how these signals are relayed through the brain. So one person may typically see colors every time they hear a word, or they may feel things that they see, and they're literally feeling them. It's going into the section of the brain that processes feeling. So we see that an autistic person is already front-loaded with a ton more signals than any given non-autistic person. The first illustration I did want to note, the we are all a little bit autistic thing that most of us have probably heard more than once and really becomes annoying. This person is experiencing deviation. The typical individual here is experiencing some deviation. This could be caused by accident or medicine or external ailment, conditional. Could have been born with it. They may have their own deviation of signals that are inherent to them, but that is still not this. They are not equivalent.